Hi, and welcome everyone. This is Varleigh, Lavender Sky Panther, with you on Saturday, February 14th, 2026. And it is 9 p.m. Eastern. And thank you if you're here. Thanks for joining in. And I mean that actually with all my heart. So sometimes we say, oh, hey, how are you? And hey, thank you, whether you're new or returning to the channel. And I just want to take a pause a moment and just say, no, truly, thank you. This is something that's a little tricky. I've mentioned in the past, this channel has been shadow banned from the get-go over 5.5 years ago. So sometimes I see people, sometimes I don't. Sometimes people try to comment, it can't come through. It's not me censoring, it's the platform being silly, as I say. So it's kind of hard to have a dialogue when that's happened. But I do just want to say truly, thank you for being here. And that's a part of this theme. Tonight we're going to be talking about wishing. So this topic dropped in actually fairly early this week, earlier than usual. So if you're not familiar with the process in some of these live shows that I do, I put it out there to my divine team, which consists of God, Jesus, ancestors, people who have, come before way back, also recent ones who have transitioned, and even galactic team, guardian angelics. I have, the way I envision it is just kind of a golden cloud above me where all of these beautiful, beautiful souls are. And at the end of the day, we are all one and all connected. I'll get to that in a minute. So today's wishing theme is going to incorporate a lot of different things, like I say, covering going way back in history to even modern times and pop culture, sometimes things in movies or music. I was kind of hinting at that in my little teaser shorts. I was just showing some songs from, I was trying to go across the decades, but a lot of them ended up in the 80s. So songs that had either the terms or phrase I wish or wishing in it. So one of the most popular ones, or the first one I thought of, was Wishing Well by Terence Trent D'Arby. I know he goes by a different name now. And also number 2 in the slot of what would, pop up in my mind is also from the 80s, is A Flock of Seagulls Wishing. And in subtitle or whatever, it says, If I Had a Photograph of You. So I did put those already in the post section. So first off, it's just a question, what song do you think of with wishing? There's plenty of classics across the 70s and 60s and all over the map. So anyway, that was just kind of for fun to kind of ponder what you might like, which song you like the best that has wishing in it. Also, I'm going to put the cover back up 1 second because in the graphics, what I was also just kind of a little sub message, not only wishing, and actually wishing with a period, we're going to get to that, instead of a ... I originally had wishing ... because there's a difference between, we put a wish out there and it just seems like it's a longing and will it ever be fulfilled would be the ... And I said, no, you know what? We're going to put a period. We're going to be wishing with intention. So anyway, but what I have going on here is wishing, and then it says le monde, it's French, for the world, and then I have the hearts. So basically right now I'm putting my intention out there that I'm wishing the world love, and then with the music here with the record displayed in harmony, that we all create one song, the universe, the one verse together. So if you're joining me, whether it's live or on the replay, again, let's have some fun with this and see where it takes us. It is Valentine's Day where I'm at. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people right now. And so I'm a little on the fence with the whole notion of Valentine's Day just because its origin story may not be so happy. But let's just say that I'll be celebrating here on this channel anyway, the notion of, celebrating a more universal love, the love for the all. And if you're right now in a relationship and it's beautiful, great. It's so wonderful to have that kind of love, that romantic love, exponentially sent out around the world because it lifts us all up. And if you're not, because this can be a pretty touchy time for a lot of people, if you're not, just remember, I'm not going to say, oh, love yourself, because nobody wants to hear that at a time like this. If you're looking around and seeing couples and, if you're the type that's like, on Valentine's Day, I only see couples everywhere and balloons and all these wonderful things, what's going on, and doesn't seem to be in my reality. Just remember, I'm not going to say give yourself extra love today, although that might help. But also just remember, it is the thing where there's just one of us in the room. And I quote this often. It's in a Neale Walsch book. I even put a heart sticker on it, like probably 15 years ago. I didn't remember doing that. But it's called Conversations with God by Neale Walsch. And, in one of the lectures Neale Walsch gave, I wanted to feel the energies of this person and see if everything was, seemed legit from the book to the person, which it did seem to match up, the energies of being good and peaceful. And like there was just a nice calm presence there. But he did talk about there being just one of us in the room, meaning if you imagine God as a sparkler, or there's plenty of other analogies or metaphors to this, but, if God's the sparkler and then all these sparks fly off, all those sparks are us. And then God goes, oh, great, I can now see myself, through the eyes of so-and-so over here, wherever the spark landed, or spark lands in me. And then God says, oh, now I see what the world's about, through this person, Varleigh. So, excuse me, I think I referred to it on last show too, because it does just illustrate that at the end of the day, that phrase, when we all transition from here into the next whatever, next realm, if you want to call it a next dimension, another frequency, we do just feel that oneness. And I have been in the presence of people who have transitioned. And it's like everything else falls away of whatever was going on. And you just feel this intense, just glow, this euphoria that you can't quite explain even. And it's just a feeling that is not meant to be actually described in words. So in essence, it's kind of very fitting that I did put this sticker on this book, because if you take any kind of sacred text, even holy book, really it should just have one symbol on it, meaning love, and that's a sum of all things. So that's where I'm going to leave that for now. Okay. Well, anyway, I also want to talk about the song "Wishing Well" by Terence Trent D'Arby had come up, and then I had gotten just this word of wishing to do this topic, to do the show on. And then I thought, you know what, do I want to do it on wishing? Like, really, that's the topic, again, asking my divine team. And then about 10 minutes later, I had to go sit and wait for somebody in a parking lot. And this guy rides by on a bike, and he's got a loud radio or speaker system on it somehow. And it's a country song, which I tried to find it. I don't know what it is. And it drives by, and as he's driving by, he was like, and she was wishing, And I'm like, okay, it's wishing. I'll stick with it. I won't question it. And actually, just before coming on here, I want to give a shout out to beautifully kind and wonderful soul Sharon over at Lake Superior Skywatcher and Nature Lover channel, because she was kind enough to put a comment in. I caught it right before coming on. And in her comment, it said agape. And I thought, you know what? I kind of know what it means, but let me look it up again, And it actually is the perfect word to like kind of kick off the show. And I'm just doing, generic general search on the internet for what that's worth. But it says agape refers to the highest form of unconditional sacrificial love, although I do have an issue with the sacrificial word. I'll get to that later. Often defined as love for God and humanity, or a state of being wide open in wonder. It represents selfless devotion, prioritizing a well-being regardless of circumstances. And it also, there's a lot here, but I'll just say, it also gives a definition of being selfless, voluntary, and intentional love that seeks the best for others. And that's just a great way to kick off the show, because even though it's going to be about wishing and wishing well, that in there too, I do want to start off the first portion of the show talking about wishing well for others. And this is independent of any kind of romantic relationship. This is the greater love, the love of the one, of us all, okay? And there's certain things that we can do, which you may or may not have already discovered this for yourself or realized this. I just came into some of this knowledge recently in the past few months, and I want to share it with you now, because it's about alchemizing a situation just by purely sending out love and good intentions for people seemingly outside of ourselves. But of course, if you wish well to anybody, quote unquote, outside of yourself, you're really wishing it to yourself, because again, it's all about the one, eventually, the all there is, and all there is love, that kind of thing. But I came into two specific instances where I thought, I didn't even think actually, just kind of came to me to do this, to try it. And it worked in both times. So recently I went to a concert, a classical concert, and I'm just going to hold up this children's book because it'll relate, I guess, eventually. It's a fun little children's book. I like the illustrations. They're also very happy colors, got nice pinks and everything in there. So we've got this little concert hall, and I'll just hold this up as I tell my little story. So, there's a concert hall. The one I went to wasn't as grand as this with the chandelier and the fringe and the velvet curtains and all that. But let's just say I was in a concert hall watching a beautiful orchestra. Okay. And what happened was I was toward the back, and inevitably, in your room full of people, doesn't matter what time of year or season, whatever it is, just sometimes, somebody's going to be there and start to cough. And then if you're that person, if you've been that person, whether it's in a situation exactly like this or in front of others where the room is expected to be quiet, and then inevitably that's when you want to cough even more, even louder, and you can't stop. So that's the moment people might start to reach for, a cough drop. And by the way, that's very annoying to the performers because they can hear those rappers. So if you're ever going to go to a concert, this is a little public service announcement. Have a gum or something ready to go to suck on that does not make that god awful noise when you undo a wrapper. Anyway, so I heard there was a person off to the behind me to the right and in the front of me to the left, and they were each kind of starting to cough, and I could feel it. They were in that angst, position where they were like, oh, now I have to cough again. I can't stop. And they didn't want to be rude. So I was feeling that kind of angst moment. And I thought, you know what? Let me wish them well silently. I guess I'll put this down there. Let me, I did. I kind of went into a little mini meditation on the spot pretty quickly, just closed my eyes. And I just felt into the person behind me to the right. And I just kind of said, with permission, if they want to stop, this coughing, then let them receive my well wish for them. And so just instantaneously, it took a nanosecond to do this. I just felt into the person and did a mini healing, said, okay, if they want to receive this, let the, passageways be cleared, let the chest be calm, let there be inner peace and peace of mind, and let the person come to balance, and may they not need to cough at all, right? This is kind of very quickly running through me. It's more of a feeling than words, just I'll heal them. I can imagine being that person. Let's both, simultaneously just kind of be calm and cleared, and we don't need to cough. Me throwing myself in there, I didn't need to cough, but just kind of the empathy. Then I did it over at the other person too. Let the person be calm, inner peace, no need to cough, the throat is calm, that type of thing, if, they want to receive this. Well, they both did, and they both not one more cough, through the entire performance. So, and I'm not just saying this to oh, look what I did, I'm just saying this is something that we can do to well wish real time to others in a situation like that. And you could say, oh, that's just a one-off, that was just coincidentally lucky. Perhaps, but I felt it, and I felt them receiving it, and it felt good. Okay. So another instance was being in a grocery store, and a couple aisles away, I heard this child wailing, crying uncontrollably, potentially one with autism. I was getting that feeling where you just, can't stop, and someone's in that zone. And I really, again, just said, okay, in this case, I said, God, be here present. Love with a capital L, be here present with me. Can we send love and calm? Again, calm to the child if the child wants to receive it. Let there be inner peace. Let there be calm. Calm in the mind, the head. Calm within. And may everything be well. Peace for the child. Peace for the care, the parents or whoever's the guardian. And peace of everybody all the way around. Just lift up this room with a lot of, infuse it with love that we all care and wish for harmony, for everyone involved. And I was, again, a few aisles over, and then almost instantaneously, and the wailing and the crying had gone on for quite a while, it just stopped. And there was this peace. So again, I'm just saying this to play with this. If you've never heard of this before, and it's just working within your mind. It's your mind and then your heart space. It's like a connection. And I go like this a lot because it's just pulling through, right? just pulling this peace and calm through and ending up right here in the heart space, just feeling this calm and imagining everything well for everybody. So again, that's on this theme of well wishing, wishing well as a part of the title. So I guess that's all I want to say about that. And also, if anybody is out there feeling a little blue today for whatever reason, it can be because it's Valentine's Day or it doesn't even matter about that. Just remember that sometimes it helps also to do little tokens of kindness for others. That kind of gets us out of our state and actually helps us be creative. Even thinking of who you might be kind to can be as simple as anybody who you might see along your daily route if you're out and about. If you tend to stay inside a lot or can't move or go out, you can always just imagine somebody. So maybe there's somebody in the neighborhood that has no family or recently lost their family or friends or any number of situations. You can also just mentally take a trip there. Close your eyes, ask if their soul it's okay to receive just a kind word, and imagine, a hug if they need it, or imagine them, if you know them to be sad, imagine them smiling and laughing and happy. Or if somebody's been mean or bitter lately in your sphere, you can also just, again, if they're able to receive it, you just do a little check in your mind, kind of telepathically reach out. You can also just imagine them happy and laughing if they've been angered or angry. And this can be people you know or people you don't know so well. And there's a lot of, I want to say magic, but not in a crazy, like a cult way. It's just a beautiful, in alchemy, I know kind of, for some people, they get triggered by those words, maybe alchemy and magic, but just know that it's just a beautiful way to send out love. Let's just call it love. And we know that love heals. They say laughter is the best medicine. Well, really, that's true, but also is love, right? So anyway, I think that's enough about that. And now we'll get into, I have, like I like to do, I do a PowerPoint presentation, but I print it out and then I hold them up. I just like it that way. I like very hands-on, tactile. And like I say before, in an AI world, I still want to hold on to stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this show is going to talk about various ways to wish. I don't know if you've thought about it, but if I say to you right now, write down how many kind of traditional things are there that people do to wish. What's the first thing you think of? Some people might think of a wishing well. Some people might think of a fountain that you kind of make a wish and throw coins in. Others, you might say, no, I think of stars all the time. Stars the first thing I wish on. So that's the gist of what we're going to cover. So this first slide, I'm going to kind of go through rather quickly because I already talked about it. I didn't hold it up. But this is just, again, this is actually from the video for Terence Trent D'Arby's song, Wishing Well. And so that's just the music part here, and the part about think of what your favorite song is that has wishing or I wish in it. And this is just in the video. He's coming to a park bench, kind of boy sees girl, boy wants to meet girl. She's like, can't be bothered. And then, she's looking off. And then, of course, he eventually breaks the ice and, they become a pair. But anyway, that's just this. Again, the song was Wishing Well. Now, I did look up the history of wishing wells. When's the first one? I think it's pretty impossible to say, oh, this was the first wishing well. But certainly it goes back to, let's just say, ancient times, even Greece, ancient Greece. So I'm not going to go too deep on all of the details in this show. This is meant to be more kind of a lighthearted, more fun show for today. So I'm not going to have all my facts, ready to go. But anything that I talk about, feel free to check on your own. And as I say, after the show airs, usually give it a couple days, 2 to 3 days. I will put more description little by little incrementally in the description area below. And if I can think of any other good facts or reference videos, books, or other things, I will, put it there too. And in addition to go have fun and go down this little badger hole and see what you find, if anything is, meets your interest of what I present here today. So we're going to get to, with wishes, for me, one that popped up right away is the whole notion of the genie in the bottle, right? Now, there's a lot of lore about genies and bottles. And some stories, I'm like, I don't really want to cover that. So I'm just going to stick with the basic one about the fisherman who finds either a copper, like one has like a copper bottle or box, another one, different kinds of bottles. But the point is like this fisherman's kind of desolate on the beach, and he sees this thing, and then he pops it open, and then this genie pops out. So I'm going to show some illustrations on that. And before I do, I was just instantly drawn to one of my sky shows because, there's cloud play, and sometimes we see figures in the clouds. I think when we're all little, if you're out playing and you look up and you're like, oh, that looks like a dog, that cloud. That one looks like a castle, right? And I've talked about this on some of my first sky watching shows, and they kind of look like different things. Well, now, I've been documenting for over the 5.5 years on my show, all these cloak and craft. Now, when I see some of these shapes, I look even deeper, and then I see, oh, there's craft within these kind of fun shapes. So this is from show number 43 called Sky GENIEs, and I'll put a link to it in the description area below. But I mean, I looked at this scene and could not help but see the back of a huge genie coming out of something, and like raising up his right, I don't know if you see this, just like his right fist. And then above him was an isolated craft, right? So to me, this is enormous, because this is like buildings down here. And the more I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks like a huge person, again, with that kind of fist up, walking away from me, so I would be seeing the back. So anyway, it's more clear in the show, and I go over it in detail there. But I just thought I'd bring it up here because I even called the show Sky GENIEs. So clearly it looked like a genie. And here's just another, kind of zooming in on some stuff, playing around with the contrast, saturation, and all that. Again, you see them, and then there's still like other craft jump out, like pure white. So it's pretty wild. But this is just a huge genie walking off with a companion UFO above him. No big deal. So that's what I thought of right away with the genie in the clouds. Now the genie, I'm going to go through these slides, and now I'm going to kind of put parallels to like the group of types of wishing that have to do with air, that have to do with water, then fire and earth, because there's a lot of different ways to wish that incorporate these different elements. So here, I'm just going to not put these up too long, but here's some of the illustrations I was talking about for the genie and the fisherman. So, and then we get into actually the Arabian Nights and the 1001 Arabian Nights. And in there we get into further like magic carpets and all this stuff, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the original story of the fisherman and the genie, who gets released. And actually, even you may have heard that, oh, the genie grants 3 wishes or any number of wishes. It's never specified in the core origin story of all of this. The 3 wishes kind of came later, probably a la Disney, and all of that. So it was not a part of the core thing. And, the genie, is depicted here, something pretty fearsome, pretty really large, compared to the human in every case. And, pretty, something that like made you want to drop to your knees and use extreme caution. The genie, very much the jinn, Jinn, has very trickster energy. So it's nothing you really ever want to call in or release if you are of like in the loving light way, love way. So anyway, I'm just showing some more artist depictions. This one gets even more, devilish looking. And it's just the idea of this, burst of air and smoke. And again, the jinn are associated with kind of turning into vapor. And that's also reminiscent of other lore, right? When you get into the vampire world, which I don't like to visit ever, but there is, I think, writings of how the vampire just like disintegrates into smoke, right? So we have that whole idea, okay? And again, the fisherman and man on the shore releasing this thing. And then we have the idea that morphed later into the story of the lamp. Like if you rub the lamp, right, the genie comes out. And then we have, I mentioned it earlier on a previous show, we have that TV series from, was it the 60s or very late 50s, I Dream of Jeannie, where the astronaut finds her, the genie in the bottle of female on, I think, Cocoa Beach, Florida, on the beach. And there's that whole little series. All right, so that's covering some air. We got the smoke thing and that whole theme. Then we'll go ahead and look up to the skies, because I think a lot of people, you think of a shooting star and you make a wish on it, right? So we've got the shooting star, and then there's just seeing the brightest star that you might make a wish on. And so I'm going to read these 2 little things that most of you might be already familiar with. But I first heard this from family members saying it when I was little. So, you look up, you find the brightest star that you can see at the time, and then you say, "Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have the first wish I wish tonight." And I do know people whose dreams or wishes have come true, wishing on a star. Then we get into a whole conversation, or could, on what is a star. There's so many things a star could be, to the extent that we have that children's song, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky." And then all throughout that song, they never say what it is. It's just left in a perpetual state of wondering what it is. So in certain cultures, those are actual ancestors or people who have transitioned, have become a star. From everything that I've read and looked at, that is one of the choices when we transition on. We could go to other planets, we can come incarnate as something else or a person again, or we can be a star. We can experience what it's like to be a tree or a stone, you name it. So that's possible too. So anyway, people obviously like to wish on stars. It seems very intuitive, doesn't it? This looking up and all the vastness, and yet there's one bright point to focus on. So it's very interesting how that works, right? And then we have the song made famous by don't want to say it really, I'll spell it. I don't like to normally spell it, but DIS. I'll just say it in 2 words, dis and like me. They made popular the song "When You Wish Upon a Star," and that's the little character Jiminy Cricket. And crickets are going to come up at the end of the show. But he starts singing, "When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come true." And so again, the concept of wishing on the star, in that context, it was in their version of the story of Pinocchio, because there are many different versions, was where wishing on the star would make the little puppet Pinocchio become a real live boy, right? Anyway, that's all I want to say about that. So, but obviously there's plenty of songs about wishing and wishing on a star. There's a song in the 70s, I can't remember who sings it, but there's that whole lore. And again, it just feels very natural. If you go out right now and look, or wherever you are when it's nighttime, look up in the sky. Your eye, as it scans around, is naturally going to kind of pick out one of the brightest ones. I know where I'm at with the northern hemisphere sky, Sirius is a bright star, and it even tends to, it seems to dance, and it has different colors, kind of radiating in it. And other people might find a different star. I did cover that in an earlier live show about the nursery rhymes and how the stars in the nursery rhymes were really told to track the constellations in the sky. So namely the Hey Diddle Diddle, the Cat and the Fiddle one. I go through what all those constellations are. And it's just kind of a fun exercise to look at each constellation, and then can you name the brightest star in each one? It's just kind of a fun thing, I think, anyway. So, but anyway, that aside, let's keep going with what involves the air. This is a little bit of a mix of air and fire. So again, I'm kind of going by the elements: air, water, fire, and then earth. This one's a mix of actually all of them, but we have the notion, or not the notion, but we have, let's just say, Chinese lanterns. Okay. Chinese lanterns, they come in all different colors if you're not familiar with them. And then you just get like a candle, a flame source, and that heats it up enough to send it up into the sky. And they do just kind of drift up nicely. Or you can get little boxed versions and float them on a river. And this was from, if anybody's familiar with, again, I don't know why there's so much Disney in here, but Disney, their movie Tangled, their version of the movie Tangled, the version of Rapunzel. And they're on a boat, and she's leaning down, and she's going to lift up this Chinese lantern to the sky. So that's something that it is a beautiful, very pretty amazing thing that, if you're among others and doing these Chinese lanterns, the only thing that's really important, there is a kind of environmentally friendly message to make sure it's not in an area of drought where, when this parts and pieces of it can fall down. There's like a little wire frame. You don't want to start a fire. It's just a word to the wise. And if it's over the ocean or something, the wire can fall in and maybe harm, fish, shark, whatever. So I love the romantic idea of it, but the more you know about how these things can harm life, it, kind of weighs on you a bit. The reason why I say that, because I had a really upfront, up close and personal encounter I didn't want to have. Sitting on the beach one day, and somebody apparently had a birthday party, and they had all these balloons, and they left, but all of the balloons, the pieces, the fragments of like a pop balloon were laying on the beach, scattered, which I didn't really know until I was laying down in the sand, and I looked on the horizon, and all of a sudden I see this seagull starting to grab something orange, latex rubbery, and it starts to go up like this and trying to swallow. It was a balloon. And it was really one of those, like almost like when you make those animals out of the balloons, those longer ones. And it was about to choke. So I didn't even think, and I don't handle birds, and I know they can like probably shred you, but I just went up there, and, there was enough of the balloon out. I wasn't too close to the beak, but it was like tug of war. I'm like, give me this balloon, The poor thing is probably like, why is she taking whatever my food is, my snack? But it would have killed it. So I just pulled and got it free. So that's kind of why I just say I'm a little touchy on some of these things. They're like beautiful imagery of releasing a Chinese lantern, but just maybe do it somewhere where something doesn't get hurt. And I want to welcome Lake Superior Skywatcher and Nature Lover to the chat. Thank you. Hi there. I gave you a shout out earlier. I don't know if you heard me, but thank you for coming into the chat. Okay, so now we're still working with air. So actually a couple more of these. So another way to wish with air is as you wish for something, you may find a feather, a distinct feather on your path. Okay, so like here they're showing a white feather that has fallen on the ground. This white feather's in the process of falling from the sky, right? Somebody has found the feathers, they're holding them up. I put this here because this is just an extraordinary color pattern on this hummingbird, and hummingbirds often represent kind of messengers between here and the heavens, right? And so, and here's a little guide somebody put together about what color feathers mean different things. I like to more go with what do you feel they mean rather than like something by others, and what you feel in the moment. So I have a feather story, I'm sure all of you do too, where you're just maybe thinking about something or seeking guidance, heavenly guidance, and then you happen to look down, or you just need encouragement, and you just see a very specific feather that you're like, how'd that get there? There's no way that could have gotten there. Or maybe you put the wish out with intention, saying, oh, you know what? Show me that all of this is good. And if I see a blue jay feather, and say it's not the season you would see one normally, again, this is usually something you wouldn't typically see. And then all of a sudden you're walking along, and then you will see that blue jay feather, or you'll see something that talks about blue jays somewhere, or someone will sing a song like blue jay on your shoulder, something like that, right? And in any case, you'll get the hint. And I had that happen once. And again, this is all tying into well-wishing and wishing in many various ways. So I know I may go all over the place, but I'm just letting whatever wants to come through on it. But my example for finding a feather in a very unusual way that I know for sure was divine affirmation was I was standing in the front yard of the place I was living at the time. And it was all St. Augustine grass. If you know what that is, it's a very hardy blade of grass. And it was, just cut, freshly cut. And I say that because I was standing there looking at the grass, and I just saw a sea of green. There wasn't even a leaf to rake, nothing on it, just green. And I looked over across the street, and I saw down the street a bit, and I saw an ambulance had pulled up to this house of the neighbors. And I knew the gentleman there wasn't doing so well. And it really hit me. I might even tear up now. It just hit me so hard. I'm like, oh, I wish he's okay. I hope it's nothing bad. And I just held my heart, and I just said, I wish that he's well, right? And then I closed my eyes. I did that. I looked down and I opened my eyes, and there was this perfect, pristine ibis feather with a little bit of a black tip on it. And that was not there before. And I looked up and I looked all around. There were no ibis present. And I'm like, wow, that was just an immediate kind of like, we hear you and whatever. And the man, it turned out he was okay. But this is the power of some of this stuff, of not only wishing well and sending love out there, but also getting that little kind of wink and a nod back, like, all right, we hear you and it's all good, Anyway, I'm sure you have some great stories. Feel free to, if you, again, can get through and put them wherever. I would love to hear them if you want to share. Okay, so now another air wishing technique here. I'm sure many of you know about this if you haven't done it yourself. It's the dandelion. And you blow on it, you make a wish, and you watch everything kind of fly off. And somebody wrote down there, some see a weed, some see a wish. So which way do you want to look at the world, right? Very powerful reminder. Some calling that a weed, some seeing it a wish. And even more than that, some of you might know the dandelion is a very powerful herbal healer if you have it in the form of a tea or a coffee, a dandelion coffee. And also what's interesting about it is you can see the person blowing on it. In German, it's called Pusteblume, so meaning blowing on the flower instead of dandelion. And if you look at the leaves of a dandelion, in German, it's called, I think, Löwenzahn or Löwenzähne. It means lion's teeth, because the profile, the shape of the leaf is very jagged. And I meant to put it on here, but I didn't. So as for fun work, maybe you might want to look that up and see what the leaf of a dandelion looks like. But then, so we have the art of just blowing on it and watching it. It's just a beautiful, not only connection with nature, but just knowing that you can send out not only one wish, but look at exponential wishes. And again, with wishing, there's, I think, kind of a fine line between what's a wish, what's luck, what's a prayer. I don't want to divide it all up and get, into too much detail with it. I think if we really look at it, it's all like the same thing, as long as there's good intent wrapped around it. It's love, it's luck, it's a wish, it's a prayer. And the main thing with the wishing is just having good intent and not waffling too much. I think a lot of us do that, right? Where we're like, oh, I wish for this, but only if it's like this, or I wish for this, but could we have this on the side? And the key is just to stay focused, like you're wishing on a star, and not get too complicated with it, and just, like an exhale, just kind of make a little wish, right? And then just have a trust and a knowing behind it that whatever it looks like, your divine team up there is taking care of it, and just be open and ready to receive, often in surprising and mysterious ways, because I think God and the universe loves to surprise us, loves for it to be a real treat, right? Not just like a mundane, here I'm making my order and here you get it. There should be a little element of fun and mystique and surprise to it, although most often we don't want that, want that necessarily, but that's the way it tends to get delivered, right? And then I just want to read that Lake Superior Skywatcher Nature Lover says that she had a very small orange maple leaf drift down in the summer while sending her friends, sending her friends' remains in Lake Superior. Oh, how beautiful. Oh, how beautiful. Definitely. So that's a whole nother thing that actually we're going to get to coming up too, about with the element of water and wishing and what we do and what other cultures do. So here's another one with air. This is kind of crossing over between air and earth, but I just kind of put it in the air category because maybe some of you know about, especially in the Asian cultures, I think more like in China and elsewhere, there's this wishing tree idea where you write your wish on the ribbons or the papers, and then they attach them into the tree. This one up here, I forget the name of the city, but it's a big banyan tree, and then it fills up with more and more ribbons, and you put the wish on there. And so here, I think a school was doing this, and they were even kind of giving little instructions about selecting the ribbon, breathing in, also, doing about the breathing and connecting with the heart, and then also making, a good intention. And I liked what the last thing at the bottom was also, you're putting the ribbon up, but then you're also letting it go. So that's the other thing about wishes, right? Some of the best ones is you just kind of make it in the moment and you let it go, and then you don't think about it. You don't, like when they say when you're planting seeds, you don't want to keep going and checking how they are every 5 seconds because they'll never grow. You just kind of put them in there, let them do their thing, right? And just send the wish out there and let it go. So now we'll move into water, the wishing with the elements of water. And then again, I'm sure you guys too can probably think of a ton of other examples. These are all just ones I just, pulled up for this relatively quickly. But over here, this is interesting because this person, I don't know if you can see it, sorry, has a lot of flowers in the hands and petals, and the water is not clean. And so this person is sending out intention, wishing well not for a person or personal gain per se, but wishing, the healing and the purification of the waters. And then this person is doing some kind of offering or blessing, who knows what, but again, it's very beautiful to put petals, if not the whole flower. In this case, somebody put a whole crown of flowers in there. And then this one I just put up as an interesting example because somebody has taken a garden and created what looks like a river, and then, put stepping stones and flowers all about it. So I thought that was just interesting too, to create the idea of water. And perhaps, this person could wander out there and put different intentions and toss the flowers onto the ground, simulating the water. I just thought it was an interesting concept. So yeah, there's just so many ways to put the wishes out there. Beautiful ways, creative ways. Speaking of creative ways, I like this one myself. If any of you ever made a paper boat. Okay, so here's the origami, instructions. Some just show you the black and white. Some show the hands and how you fold it. There's a ton of information online for this. But anyway, and slightly different variations and forms. So this is one of the simplest ones. And then this one, they actually even give like 2 different size sails and stuff. So you can look around and see what's easy to create or what's more complicated, whatever you like. But here's the whole notion of sending a little paper boat down the stream and making a wish. It can be white. It could be made out of newspaper. In the old days it was often done that way. Or it can be, different colored paper. This artist made a huge version of an origami boat, covered a regular boat with it, I guess just to be fun. And then here we've got little tea lights, so at night you can, put the paper boat down the water, kind of like that Chinese lantern idea, floating on the water, and make the wish. Now, here's one more, I think. Yeah, one more for the water element. Then this is a slightly, still in the wishing category, and with water, is the message in the bottle. I don't know if any of you have ever played around with that or actually sent out a bottle with a wish in it. But you just write your wish, roll it up, put it in the bottle, and throw it in the ocean, right? Now, just recently, I did read a story, and I think it's legitimate, a story of a man, and I think, I'm going to get the countries wrong, but just go with me on it. He was somewhere in Scandinavia, and he threw a bottle out in the ocean. I think he was feeling pretty lonely. He was a young guy, and he was just like wishing for a mate, wishing for a girlfriend. And he said, oh, I wish for, I think he even said beautiful woman. Of course, it always has to be beautiful, right? They're writing the wishes. And he writes that I would like to have a girlfriend, whatever. He writes his description. I think he even put a photo of himself in there, and he put like an address to contact. Well, the bottle journeyed from Scandinavia, somehow made it all the way down. I think it was Sicily, at least, or far south toward Italy. And a girl was walking around, found the bottle, and she was of the similar age, wrote to him, and they actually did meet and connect, and it was a match. So stuff like that can happen, So anyway, that's just another fun notion of the message in the bottle, right? And of course, there's songs about that. If you think of the Police, message in a bottle, and leads to other, what other songs can you think of that are about a message in the bottle, right? Okay, so now we're going to move into the element of fire. And I'm sure maybe some of you know more examples. I really couldn't think of much more than what I'm going to show you on one page. I'm wondering if in other cultures they do more with fire. But anyway, we've got the old birthday cake, right? Where you load it up with the candles. And then, or, it could be some other kind of ceremony where there's just a tea light or little light, especially in some church ceremonies, and then you blow out the candle. So I've read a lot of mixed things about this. I'm taking the positive aspects of all of this, the origin stories. Some negative aspects might say that blowing out the candle is doing something negative for the whole thing. I still look at it as positive. And again, if you think about the single candle, again, it's about a focal point, and it's about taking your energy and putting it to focusing on one point, and that is your wish, the culmination of the wish, and that brings the power of it to one point, right? And then the blowing out is letting it go, much like the ribbon, just like let it go, right? There's something to that, the physical motion, and the aspect of kind of going through that, like thinking it, focusing on it, and sending it out there, right? So anyway, that's, the old birthday cake, and then, and of course the wish being made. Then we have other types of candles. Looking at this took me into another slightly different direction. How candles can also be made. That's a coconut shell that someone's put the wax in, and that's floating on the water. And this is just a half of an orange. And then with a little pulp, there's usually a concentrated area of pulp in the middle. And they just lit that, right, with a little bit of oil down there. So that's the orange. And then, making your own candles. You can use anais to represent stars and wish two different ways, blowing on it and then having the stars and printed in there. So anyway, again, I just love reaching some of these creative aspects of what it means to wish. And then, of course, it is all about intent, and hopefully it's, good. And yeah, we wish for things, right? Like, oh, I wish I had this house. Some people wish for a car. Some people wish for a girlfriend or boyfriend, or if I had this money, or I wish all around, right? A lot of times we can also wish more generic, like I just wish for the, happiest and best, for my overall situation. And then kind of like surprise me. I think some of those wishes can work even better than trying to get too focused on a specific material thing. All right, now this is going to be a mixed bag of wishing types. So we already covered the when you wish upon the star thing with Jiminy Cricket. And then, of course, there is the black cricket, which has a spiritual meaning of bringing good things. So just according to this one person's pulling this up, saying a cricket in your home signals harmony and good fortune. It can also be a sign to embrace change and trust your path. And the chirping is thought to guide you during difficult times. So again, it's kind of a fine line between, am I wishing on the cricket, or do I just know that the cricket is bringing me good wishes? It's just that kind of a thing is why I brought it up. And they're actually pretty small, the little black crickets. And then, we have the ladybug, kind of similar concept, that the ladybug symbolizes good wishes. And here in the corner, and some people say that if you count up the number of the spots, that's like the number of years of good luck you're going to have, or that your wishes will come true. It's kind of funny. And then here we also, jumping back to air for a minute. This is kind of miscellaneous page. Some people wish, on clouds, cloud formations. I'm sure some of you, I know at least one person here has seen in the skies things that might look like an angel or angel wings or something very loving. Like in this case, it's the shape of a heart. And some people just, you kind of focus on it again, like you might wish on a star, and you just might make a little silent wish to yourself. And the pennies I'm putting here, because in conjunction with the sky, is also I wanted to bring something up about pennies. So the next slide is going to talk about throwing coins into a fountain and making a wish. But there's also the concept of pennies from heaven. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it is a true phenomenon. And I have a true story about it that I will share. So pennies from heaven is similar like the feathers. Like you're thinking of something, you might be down, and you're just like, oh, I wish I just had some divine encouragement. And then you look down, and out of nowhere, you see a coin on your path. And, I'm in the U.S. base, so it's often, it could be a penny, it could be a dime, it could be whatever, but it's something that just happens there. It wasn't really there before, and it was right in the moment that you were just like really wishing for some help or support or whatever. And so the story I have too is, so that's one form of pennies from heaven. Just your angel kind of drops it down there like the feather. Also, if someone has passed, this was shown in the movie Ghost from 1989, I believe. In that movie, there was a scene where somebody who had passed was able to move a penny. Now, the loved one couldn't see the person, but could see the actual penny. I have a similar story, pretty profound one, a known friend of a friend type of thing. So the person's partner had passed, and so she was, coping with all the feelings that you do with that. And anyway, she had some pennies like on the table, like you throw your change down on the table. And she had them, they were just kind of scattered for whatever reason. So she went to bed, and then she woke up, and then all the pennies were neatly stacked at the other end of the table. There was no one else in the house. And she just knew and felt it. That was her loved one saying, hey, I'm here, and this is encouragement for you. So then she got a little freaked out by it, though, which, that's normal, because you're just like, what? This stuff is real. Our loved ones from the other side, yes, they can do things like this. So anyway, she then went to the table, picked up all the pennies and removed them completely from the table. And then she woke back up the next morning and the pennies were back on the table. So this stuff does happen. I just wanted to mention it, but it's a good thing. It's showing that love is there. There's a thing about when you see cardinals flying in the trees or whatever. There's a saying, forgive me if I flip it, but it's like when cardinals are near, when cardinals are near, angels are here, or when cardinals are here, angels are near, something like that. You know what I mean? And for me, that has been the case. Directly after loved ones in the family have passed, like I'll look up, I'll think of them, and then boom, there's a cardinal that like normally that's not their season to be there or something. And for other people, it's hummingbirds, so it's a very interesting phenomenon, but a very real one of our connection to, what we call the higher realms, right? Okay, now we have this, which is our fountains. And in this case, I'm just using Trevi Fountain in Rome as the example. This is a very grand fountain. If you don't know it, it's huge. And, tourists come and throw their coins in. There was a movie, I think, called 3 Coins in a Fountain or something like that, that made the act of throwing the coins into the Trevi Fountain extra famous. Up here, it's kind of hard to see. Let me put it up like this. But there's a man with a push broom, and see this whole line? That is a whole line of all the coins that they are sweeping out of that fountain. I don't know if it's daily or weekly or how often they do that, but anyway, it shows it's a heck of a lot of coins. So the act of throwing coins into fountains, I have some older representations here. One on the bottom is a type that was a Roman coin in the city of Bath in England. And in some of the excavations, they were looking there under the actual baths, like thermal baths of Bath. They found a lot of Roman coins, ancient coins. So whether those were thrown in as wishes or somehow otherwise found, I don't know. But there's always an idea of the metal, the coins going into the water and wishes being made. I do have, I'm going to show this because it's Trevi Fountain from the side view, which normally isn't seen. Like actually in my looking around at stuff, I rarely see the side view of the Trevi Fountain, a part of the Trevi Fountain. And here we have, this thing is called a hippocampus. I talked about that in another show, where you have the head of the horse with wings, and then the serpentine or kind of whale-like or fishtail, on the body. So it's very interesting. Again, that entire fountain is pretty fascinating. You want to just look around there for another side fun work to do. Okay. And, and I just wanted to do a footnote on the comment from earlier about releasing things into the water. So it says the point is made by actualizing our dreams in real time and the wish to always be in agreement with creation. Yep, very true. Very, very true. All right, so now here we have, this is going to be my last little slide. This was something I found very interesting. I had a very profound experience walking along the beach. This is not my photo, but this is reminding me of it. I was walking along the beach, and somebody had built a massive sandcastle. But what I thought was so beautiful was that they did like this. They put all these tea lights all over it. And I don't remember the exact language, but they had a beautiful, like a little notepad, and they put something about making a wish. And I thought, wow, that's a really beautiful way to do it. As you're walking along and seeing this, it just was really magical, this castle. So anyway, these are just some things that came to my mind about the theme of wishing. Thanks for your input in the chat. And maybe this is just a springboard for you to think of other things. I think one more, of course, I did mention on my previous show, similar to releasing things into the water. I'll just recap that story if you didn't see the show where I talked about it. It was in the whale wolf show at the end. But, a friend of mine had ashes of her beloved golden retriever, and the golden retriever did love water. Not all of them do, but this one really did. And we had an opportunity to go on a boat and take the ashes out into the bay. And so we're in the bay, and my friend said, you know what? I feel this is the right place to release the beloved dog. And so she took the ashes, and, the boat was in idle. It wasn't traveling. We were kind of like parked without the anchor, basically. So as she was releasing them over the side of the boat, we were kind of drifting. And so it was kind of moving along and making a little trail. Right at the moment that the last bit of the ashes went into the water, there was, a little bit of bubbles as it was going down. Not even like a second later, this enormous dolphin, I'll never forget this, enormous sized dolphin came vertically up out of the water and arced over, dove in, and then it just disappeared. And there were a few of us, there were probably like 5 of us on the boat, and we all like just looked at each other like, oh my God, in a good way, loving God. That was the dog who then just transformed and sprung out. And we didn't get the impression that it was just a separate, being marking the occasion and jumping out and celebrating, the passing into heaven. We really felt it, that dog transformed in a good way, beautiful way, and became, the dolphin. So anyway, oh, thanks, Joy to Share. That's amazing. Oh, thank you. Welcome, Joy to Share. And again, thank you, dear Lake Superior Skywatcher, nature lover. But we felt it. And that's the other thing with some of these things. The reason why I wanted to bring up that story is that was not only releasing of the loved one or what is connected to the loved one, because the spirit of the loved one obviously is already, on. Our material, tangible things left over is not that person, right? But the thing is that releasing it into the water, again, it was focusing, the energy, the attention and the focus and the love from not only here, I'm pointing here because it's like the third eye. It's our inner sight connected with our inner heart space and feeling. And that both together, we sorry, I'm doing this wrong quick, but we focus it in on wherever we're putting our attention. So in this case, into the water, into a very specific point of the water. And it's just amazing what, we're putting our wish, again, it's a little boundary jumping with what's a wish, what's a prayer, what's a meditation, right? I think it's just all combined when we come into that oneness and focus that oneness. Again, which brings us back around to what? Love. And a whole nother side topic of fun work instead of homework topic is where and why do we have this as the heart symbol, right? I've tried to look at it and nothing I look at really makes sense. I saw something posted right before I came on that might, but when we do this, like the heart, very interesting, right? So anyway, that's just something fun to sign off on because I think that's about it for now. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing for anyone who needs it. And if you don't, it's fine. And I've never done this before, but we're going to do it now. And I hope I don't set the whole place on fire. Hold on. I'm going to light a candle. This happens to be a dedicated candle, which actually even says love on it. It's a little beat up. It's been through the ringer on several moves I've had. I don't even know what it smells like. But, okay. But I hold this up for all of us. Whoever might need a wish right now. Here, let me put it on the pretty side if there is one. Okay, I'm just going to hold this up right now. If you need a wish and you want to do this with me, let's all wish together. Okay. And wish the best for everyone here. The most harmonious and highest good for all of us here, right now. And I'll just be quiet and you make your wish and then I'll blow it out. Everybody got it? All right, so this one's for you. And I mean individual, everybody out there, I send you tremendous peace and love. And I'm just going to blow this out, okay? Got that wish? It did go out. Here we go. Love, tremendous love and peace. All the best and highest for everybody out there and for all whom you love. I'll sign off with that. Take care, everyone. Till next time. Bye.